Infamous Second Son is the third game of the popular PlayStation exclusive franchise, and a must-have title for any PlayStation 4 owner. It's been a while since I've had this much fun with an open-world sandbox. Players will step in the shoes of Delson Rowe, an Akomish Native American who has a knack for getting into trouble. Unlike his brother Reggie, who is the local sheriff, his life changes forever when a military convoy carrying 3 conduits crashes near his home, leading Delson to accidentally absorb one of the conduit's powers. Along the way, Delson meets Augustine, leader of DUP and the one responsible for keeping all conduits locked up and at bay, and ironically a conduit herself. Believing Delson has learned too much during his encounter with the conduit, she proceeds to torture everyone in the tribe for information using her concrete powers, leaving them in fatal condition. Delson takes it upon himself to find Augustine, absorb her concrete powers, and return home in time to heal and save those afflicted by them. Worried for his brother, Reggie tags along for the ride. Unfortunately, by the time credits began to roll, Infamous Second Son's story left something to be desired. It gets the job done and keeps the game moving at a decent pace, but there is little that is memorable about it. I did enjoy certain aspects, like the interactions between Delson and the other conduits that he meets along the way. Seeing their past memories through the game's beautifully realized comic-style cutscenes did raise some thoughts about the dilemmas and consequences of a world in which humans come to develop superpowers, but even these characters weren't given enough development or closure for me to care about them in the long run, which is a shame because there was a lot of potential there. Fortunately, the game features an excellent voice cast that brings these characters to life. Troy Baker does an excellent job portraying Delson's nonchalant attitude. I particularly enjoyed the conversations that Delson had with his brother Reggie, which managed to get a few chuckles out of me. The ensemble does an equally impressive job, and the excellent facial animations made these characters all the more lifelike and believable. The game as a whole is very well presented and looks absolutely stunning. Animations are crisp and smooth, models and textures are sharp, and the open world is beautiful to behold, but most impressive of all are the particle effects, particularly where superpowers are concerned. When multiple conduits get involved, the game can truly be visually mesmerizing. The stunning visuals do come with a price, however, as the frame rate does drop occasionally when things get too crazy, but for the most part, the PlayStation 4 manages to keep up with the game's high demand for processing power. Now, if there is one aspect of the game that tops the visuals, it's the gameplay. The best part about Infamous Second Son is that it is just fun to play and hard to put down. The star of the show is the superpowers. By the end of the game, Delson will have access to 4 unique powers, each with their own unique attributes and gameplay style. Switching between them is as simple as absorbing the power's appropriate element. These powers not only look great, but they also feel great, in part because the game's controls are so simple, responsive, and intuitive. Zipping and flying through the game's large open world feels satisfying and incredibly fun. Combat is thrilling and exciting, and it truly does feel like the player is stepping into the shoes of a man bestowed with incredible powers. The game also has a well-paced learning curve. Instead of overwhelming players by shoving all the powers at once, it provides enough breathing room for players to master each power and all the skills that come with them before handing over the reins. Players will earn new powers as the story progresses, and will learn new techniques and skills for each power through the game's somewhat cluttered but functional skill tree. Scattered throughout the world are shards that players can find, which essentially act as skill points that can be spent to increase Delson's arsenal. Most skills are made available no matter which side of the game's morality system players decide to appeal to, but certain skills and techniques do require that players be at a certain morality level. A hero style of gameplay usually involves subduing enemies to earn good karma points and obtaining skills that aid with that, while an infamous style of gameplay mostly involves killing enemies to earn bad karma points and obtaining lethal skills to further aid players in becoming infamous. While the game's morality system does encourage players to play the game twice to experience both styles of gameplay, I found it to be one of the weakest aspects of the game. Morality in Infamous Second Son essentially amounts to grinding and leveling up the morality bar through menial tasks. Those aiming to earn good karma will be subduing enemies instead of killing them, drawing morally good graffiti if that even makes sense, releasing suspects from DUP cages, engaging in drug busts, and more. Those aiming to earn bad karma will basically be annihilating everything in sight and drawing morally bad graffiti. It's pretty shallow stuff, and while the game does offer certain key story moments for players to decide the fate of certain characters, these decisions are so black and white, they are unlikely to have any sort of lasting impact. You are either doing the right and human thing, or you're just being a complete douchebag, with no gray areas to ponder upon. The game only has two endings depending on which side of the morality system the player is leaning towards, and save for a few different dialogue, cutscenes, missions, and powers, the morality system has very little overall impact on the game world. My belief is that a morality system should revolve around cause and effect and the consequences of actions, not around superficially earning good or bad points through menial tasks or clearly labeled decisions. Another disappointment was the side missions, which I found to be shallow and repetitive. Once players are done with a relatively short 8 to 10 hours main campaign, they are dropped right back into the game's open-world Seattle setting to complete the rest of the side missions and liberate Seattle from DUP control, but these side missions never felt compelling enough to keep me going for much longer. There are only so many security cameras and jammers I can destroy, or undercover agents I can hunt down, or graffitis I can paint, or DUP bases I can obliterate before these tasks start getting old. I was more motivated to start a new game to experience the other side of the morality coin. And speaking of things getting old, after a while I became tired of some of the game's more gimmicky elements, like holding the controller sideways to paint graffiti or swiping the game's touchpad for things that could be done with a button, but they were nothing so obtrusive that I couldn't deal with them. With all said and done, Infamous Second Son's fantastic main campaign, tight and responsive controls, and the fun of using the game's various superpowers made it well worth the price. The campaign is a bit on the short side, the story does leave something to be desired, the morality system is disappointingly shallow, and the side missions do get repetitive after a while, but none of these negatives overshadow the game's fantastic gameplay and visual presentation. Players will truly feel like a god among men, either as a protector or as a force to be reckoned with. No matter which, you're guaranteed to have a blast. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for tuning in. Be sure to let our nation know in the comments below your thoughts on Infamous Second Son. And for more game news and reviews, be sure to join the nation and subscribe to Yong. I'll see you guys next time. Thank you very much, and Yong out.